So, welcome to Formative Assessment Tips and Tricks, using quizzing tools in Canvas to gauge student knowledge. My name is Terry Milroy. I'm the coordinator of Education Technologies at Southside Virginia Community College, and I am also the vice chair of the ELET committee. In the chat tonight, we have two ELET members, Tim Hoffman from Rappahannock and Paige Durham from Germanna, as well as two of my favorite people from the systems office, David Todd and Sherry Prupus. So there are plenty of people to answer your questions. Should you have any, please do pop them in the chat and someone will be happy to assist you. Our agenda for tonight is pretty simple. We've got three main items. Number one, we are going to talk about the types of progress checks and tools that you can use to track student progress in the LMS, as well as tools that students can use to track their own progress. Our second item is new question types in new quizzes, because when we talk about formative assessment, we want to give students a variety of question types and a variety of assessments. So using some of these new question types that are available to you in new quizzes is a good option if you have it available. And finally, we're going to spend the bulk of our time talking about creating and embedding formative quizzes, using pages to embed classic and new quizzes, studio video quizzes, and surveys using Google Forms. I do want to add that we probably will not be here the whole hour, but I will try to do everything in the most expeditious manner possible tonight. So let's start tonight with a brief discussion of the types of progress checks. If you were able to attend either of Paige's sessions on engagement, either Tuesday night or yesterday morning, you heard some things about progress checks for instructors and students to check student progress. And I wanted to take a moment tonight to go over those again in case that was something that you needed a little bit more emphasis on. So first of all, progress checks can include any of the following. Instructors can use new analytics in order to see how student participation is being gauged against grades, or how their on-time percentage is being gauged against grades. Students can be encouraged to use the what-if function in the gradebook in order to answer their own questions about what type of progress they are making and how they will perform given expected grades on future assignments. Be sure you're using the to-do list to keep students on track, and encourage students to create their own to-dos in their calendar. Make sure due dates are included for graded items to keep the student calendars up to date as well. And finally, include knowledge checks in your content to allow students to gauge their understanding before they move on to new content material. So briefly, new analytics, you see on your screen a screenshot with student names removed for privacy that shows you the grade, the on-time submission percentage, and to the far right, the number of participations in the course. What this tells you is that if you're allowing multiple submissions for students, and for instance, we've got one student here that has 2 participations and also only has a 77%, it may be that they are not taking advantage of additional submission opportunities to raise their grade, or it may be that they have 1 or more assignments that are missing because they do not have the same number of participations as others in the class. So looking at these 3 factors together, the grade, the on-time percentage, and the participations, just gives you an idea of where students are and where they may be falling behind, either in terms of submitting on time or submitting at all. What if grades? If you're not familiar, students can go into their gradebook and they can put in any grade that they want to see how it impacts their totals. So for instance, students who want to decide whether or not to retake a quiz can put in an altered grade for that quiz and decide whether or not it's worth their time to go back over the material for whatever alteration to their final grade a better score is going to give them. Students may want to see how much a particular assignment is going to impact their total grade. If they know that something that they submitted was not their best work, or if they know that they don't have a lot of time to devote to something, they may want to put in a what if grade for the assignment and gauge what their chances are of keeping their grade at the same level it is currently. Students may also want to know what grade they need to finish the course with a desired outcome. We hear this all the time. What do I need to get on the final in order to make a C in this class? And they can go in and put in a final exam or project grade and see what that does to their final total. And that gives them a good idea of not only how much effort is going to be required for them, but also if they have multiple exams in the same day or the same week, how much time they're going to need to budget for each to make sure that they come out with the grades that they desire. To-do lists are another great way for both you and students to keep students on track. So you want to make sure that students know to look at the to-do list on the right-hand side of their dashboard, because announcements that you've posted, assignments and discussions that are waiting for them to complete, recent feedback on items that they have already submitted, and no submission assignments, at least until the due date, will appear in their to-do list and stay there either until they take action or until they manually exit out. And of course, the calendar is one of the great features of Canvas. You should, as an instructor, be prepared to add due dates to all of your graded items so that the students' calendars are complete and so that they can see all of their course requirements for all courses in one area. I encourage you also to add due dates to your pages. If you've got pages that are something students need to act on, for instance, you've got some information about a group project and the page gives them a date by which they need to have chosen their own group or one will be chosen for them, put a due date on that page so that students have it in their to-do list to look at and they act to make sure that they have joined a group appropriately. You can and should also encourage your students to create their own to-dos in the calendar. I've put a little picture there. When you click the plus at the top of the calendar, you do have an option in the box that pops up to make a to-do. And that will allow students to add things, for instance, a group project meeting to their calendar so that they keep all of their time management issues in one area as well. So the last thing that was discussed in the engagement presentation, of course, was knowledge checks, which is going to be the focus of most of our time tonight. And I read this on a higher ed website, and I really liked this quote. All question types can be made more effective by requiring response to images, videos, graphs, tables, and or text selections. And I think this is important because we want to remember that our students are visual learners. They're used to using social media and things that are very graphic in nature. So when we add images and videos and graphs to our questions, when we ask them, we are actually engaging them in an environment where they are comfortable. So let's talk about the new question types in new quizzes. And I want to start by saying that I know that there are still some colleges that do not have new quizzes enabled, and that's fine. At some point in the future, we are told new quizzes will be the only quizzing option. And at that point, you can try some of these question types if you don't have access to them now. So there are 3 question types that I think are really good for formative assessment that are not found in the classic quizzes. The first is stimulus. Think of your SAT or ACT test, where you have a selection and there are questions that pertain to that selection. In Canvas, this allows you to attach any type of question that Canvas provides to any type of stimulus, whether that's a text selection, a video, an audio file, or an image. Categorization is another new question type, and it's a better way in many cases to require students to fulfill objectives for list or identify, because it allows you to create categories of information and students have to drag and drop information into the correct category. And finally, hotspot is a wonderful tool for replacing identify in terms of anything that you can demonstrate on an image. Think in anatomy and physiology, where you want to have students identify the left ventricle of the heart, or in geography, where you want students to locate China on a map. Both of these are wonderful hotspot questions, but there is one caveat. Hotspot cannot be made accessible for our visually impaired students. So if you have students who need to use a screen reader, you will have to have an alternate question type for them because we cannot make a hotspot question accessible to those screen readers. So let's look at Canvas. And I am going to go to my modules in my fake course here. And let's talk about some of the question types that we have in new quizzes. So I'm actually going to create a new quiz, first of all. And I am going to call it New Quizzes Demo because I am just that unique today. And when I open it up, oh, I forgot. I did this morning too. I need to go to Quizzes and create here because it defaults to classic quizzes otherwise in this one. So if I create it here and I say, we're just having so much fun today, and we save and publish. All right, here we go. So now that we're in the new quizzes screen, you add your questions from the blue plus button. And when we click this, the first thing we're going to take a look at is the stimulus question. And we have to give the stimulus question a title. So we're going to say stimulus demo, because again, I am just incredibly original tonight. And maybe you want to add an image for students to respond to. So I'm going to browse my computer and I'm going to pick, there we go. I'm going to pick these lovely bomb pops. And remember to do alt text if you have an image for accessibility. And so I'm going to say, and red, white, and blue. And as soon as the image pops up, there we go. Okay, so now we have our stimulus and we want to add that and attach a question. So what kind of question do we want to attach? Well, maybe we want to attach a multiple choice question. So I can just say this is, oops, Q1. And my question is going to be, what is the image showing us? And we can say some stupid things like staplers and let's see, snow cones. And we'll say popsicles. And don't ever give your students that easy of a question, but we're just having fun tonight. And just like with a regular multiple choice question, you can vary points by answer. You can choose to shuffle the choices. And if you want to lock any of the choices in place, you can add your points, add feedback for right and wrong answers if you wish. And when you have all of this set, click done, and there you go. So I can add as many questions to pertain to this image as I want, and that image will continue to be what shows up for that question. Let's look at the categorization question now. So when I create a categorization question, which we're going to call Q2, I can say which president belongs to which party. And I can go down here, and this category is Democrats, and this category is Republicans. And I can choose to say Bill Clinton here and Ronald Reagan here. And I can add another answer if I want and say Barack Obama. And over here, I can say George W. Bush. And I can keep adding as many correct answers for each category as I want until I have the total that I want students to be able to identify. But I can also go down here and click Distractor. And I can add something like, not that Miss Piggy was a president, but you know, sometimes you could be mistaken. And I can add as many distractors as I want as well. Add my points, and again, my feedback if I want. When I click done, what I see is this. What students are going to see is every single one of these names all jumbled together in one place, and they will be dragging and dropping to the correct category, making sure not to put the distractors in the categories because that will take points off of their question. So again, this is a really great way to list or identify. And finally, let's do a hotspot question. So this is Q3, and we're going to say, where is the American flag in this picture? Because I know I already had that set up earlier. And we're going to choose this. And when I have this picture added, notice that we've got 3 different ways to draw around whatever it is we want to highlight in the picture. We've got a square, we've got a circle, but we also have this point annotator. So if you're trying to outline, for instance, the outline of a state, you can click on one place in the state and then click again and click again and click again and create an abnormal shape, whereas the square and the circle obviously are more normal shapes. But I'm going to use the square because that's going to fit in this particular case. And I'm going to highlight the area where students can click and get the right answer. So now anywhere that blue shading appears, if students click there, they get the answer correct. And again, points and feedback. And when I click done, there it is. Okay. So those are some of the new question types and new quizzes that I think are really helpful, and that will be something that if you add them to a formative quiz, it will actually be something that students will get a lot out of. So let's go back to our presentation. And we are going on. There we go. And so now we're going to talk about creating and embedding our formative assessments. So first of all, embedding classic and new quizzes on a page is done exactly the same way, regardless of which quiz type you're using. So in the example on the screen, which I'm going to demonstrate in Canvas in just a minute, if I were to want to embed a link to a quiz on the middle of a content page, when I choose the external link and choose course links, it's going to pop this little window out on the right, and that's going to allow me to add a quiz. And just so you know, I'm going to flip through several of these, and then we'll go to Canvas and look at each. You can, if you want, just add a formative quiz between pages in your modules list. That's an easy way to add it, and it takes probably less time than some of the others. You can add a quiz to a studio video, and this involves several steps. So first you have to have your video. Then you're going to choose Create Quiz from the menu on the video card. You're going to play the video, and when you get to where you want to ask a question, you're going to click the little plus and choose one of the 3 question types that Studio allows. That's multiple choice, multiple answer, or true false. You're going to enter all of your question information just like you would for a regular quiz. And when you click save, it's going to allow you to keep playing the video until you have all of your questions added. But then, of course, you have to make it available to students. So on a page, you're going to edit and choose the studio icon. And when you do that, you're actually going to choose your video that will have this little rocket ship in the corner. And you're going to be sure that you choose to embed the media on the correct page. And I'm going to show you that in Canvas. We had a problem with that this morning, but I fixed it. And so it's all better now. All right, so let's take a look at all of that. And so here we are again. So if I want to embed a link to a formative quiz, so here's my page of content, and I'm going to add a link to a formative quiz that I've created by editing the page And then down here where I want to put the link, I'm going to put my cursor and I'm going to go up here in the rich content editor to the link to the dropdown, and I'm going to choose course links. Notice that this window pops up to the side. Quizzes is already open, but if it wasn't, I could click this little arrow and it would open for me. Then I can choose whichever quiz it is that I want to embed. I'm going to choose my Game of Thrones quiz. And then I have now a link to this formative quiz so that in the student view, when I click on it, notice that it takes me directly to the quiz for students. Okay, so let's go back. Obviously, you can also add a quiz, whether new quiz or classic quiz, in your modules list. If you haven't done this before, you go up here to the plus. From the drop-down menu, you choose quiz. You can create a new quiz, or you can select one that already exists. So if I select a quiz here and add item, it's usually added to the bottom of your module, but you can grab it and drag it up between whatever pages you want, making sure that it's published and that the module is published so that students can access it. Now, something that we did not talk about in the presentation, but which is a great option if you want to do a survey, graded or ungraded, is using a Google form. So what I have done here is I have this form that has these quiz question types. I created a new quiz and added questions to it. And in order to put it in Canvas, I clicked send. And notice over here, the greater than and less than, or the little brackets. When you click that, you get the iframe information. And I click copy. And when I X that out and go back here to my course, I'm going to edit my page. And I'm going to delete this so that you guys can see me do it. Down here, you have the same brackets icon that means the HTML editor. When you click that, you're going to be switching pages or switching views. And I'm just going to paste what I've already copied here and save. And when I do, there is my form, and students can answer the survey right there on the screen. So I could say that's a butterfly. Yes, that is correct. Is today Thursday? Well, yeah, it is, but who is actually keeping track of days anymore? And I can submit, and there we go. And I can even view my score right here, and it's going to open Google for me and tell me what I got. So that is a wonderful way to do a survey, and you can choose to grade those or not. Google does give you the option. You can also lock the Google form for students using Chromebooks so that they cannot open other tabs. But if you do that, you can't get the HTML code to embed it. So don't do that if you're making them. And finally, in this little list that I've created here of regular quizzes, there is an opportunity for some of you, if your school is using City Labs to design courses and you are working with your instructional designer on a new course or redesigning an existing course, and they have access to City Labs, there is the opportunity to add knowledge checks like the one that you see down here at the bottom of your screen. That is a function of the City Labs software and not a function of Canvas. So if you are working with your instructional designer on a course and this is something that you would like to add on a more permanent basis rather than some of the other options I've shown you, you can definitely speak with your designer, and I'm sure they'll be happy to work with you. And if they have access to this, you can do that as well. Okay, so let's talk about the Studio video quizzes. So first of all, I'm going to go over here to Studio because I have to have a video first. And I actually have to create my quiz questions in my video. So here's the video that I made earlier today. And I'm going to click on these three dots that are called the kebab. I'm going to choose Create Quiz. I'm going to give this a title, Nighttime Studio Quizzing. And I can give it a description, which I won't do. And then this little toggle button is an important decision for you to make. I turn mine on because this hides the question markers from students as they are watching the video. Otherwise, you have these little dots on the timeline of the video, and students can see where to fast forward to get to all the questions to finish the content faster. So I choose to hide mine. You may not, but that's entirely up to you. So I'm going to click Get Started. Now notice down here at the bottom, I have this little plus button. And so as I play, I can pause and click the plus button. And now I can choose my question type for this point in the video. So if I choose true, false, I'm going to say, this video is of me. Yep, that's true. I can give feedback on the question if I want, or if I don't want, that's fine too, and I can save. And notice that it's told me, okay, I've placed a question here. I can continue to play and add questions for as long as I want until I get through the entire video. When I'm done adding questions, I click Done up here at the top. And after a moment, you'll notice now I have the little quiz icon, the little rocket ship at the top of the card. So now I need to go back to my course because now I need to make it available to students. So I'm going to go to my modules, and here's the module where I want to enter it. And I already have this page created, and it has one video in it, but I need to add this video as well. So I'm going to edit. And up here, or maybe down here, we're going to click the studio icon. I'm going to choose the correct video with the quiz that I want to add. When I click select, notice that I have a couple of things to choose. First of all, do I want to allow students to comment in addition to answering the questions on my quiz? Yes or no? If you display the download option, students can download the video, but the quiz questions will not feed back into Canvas. So you want to make sure that if you've got a quiz attached that you don't select that option. I also need to go over here to where it says video quiz embed, and I need to choose what particular page or what module I am embedding in. So because this is the only place where I've attempted to add it, that's my choice. I'm going to click embed. And now there is the studio video with the quiz that I just created. And notice that you have something in your menu down below that is quiz results. So as students take the quiz, you'll be able to see their results, and those results will feed into the Canvas gradebook. So I'm going to save. And if I go to student view here for a minute, just so you can see. Okay, they can get started and start taking a quiz. And yes, this is a different one. Oh, that's right. That's the one that I messed up. Get started here. And let's see if it'll load. Okay, and there's the question. Okay, so I'm going to answer this question, say it's true, and I'm going to continue. And this is only a 15-second video, so we'll let it run for a second. And it's going to show the results down at the bottom. Okay, submit quiz and view results. And that's going to tell me that I got 1 point out of 1 in 29 seconds. So that's wonderful. And that's what your students will see. And then as the instructor, you'll be able to look at quiz results and see student results. And it's going to tell you that test student has an attempt in progress. It hasn't. Oh, that's the other one. There we go. Quiz results, student results. There we go. And there's my grade. Okay. So all of that to say that these are wonderful opportunities for you to create formative assessments for your students. These are all different options, and you can mix and match to give students a little bit of a change up as you go through the semester. So We have a couple more things to talk about in the presentation. So let's get back there for just a moment and talk about other formative assessment options. There are, of course, many different things that you could call an assessment, but some of the items that are recommended by higher ed institutions and higher ed research firms are something like a Google Doc, a discussion, or even external apps that are not necessarily linked into Canvas that allow you to create similar knowledge checks to what we do in Canvas as you would in Canvas. And let me preempt some questions that I had this morning and say the reason you would choose an external app for a quiz that is very much like what you would do in Canvas is simply for the variety for students. It has no benefit over what Canvas offers. It's only an opportunity for students to have a different experience. So we are going to make one more quick trip into Canvas. And go down here and look at our other formative assessment options. So this Google Doc that I have created as a formative assessment option is something that was mentioned on one of the resources that Paige provided in her engagement webinar earlier this week. And it is to have students create their own test questions. So I've given my students some information about directions for this assignment and told them to create 3 questions that they feel address the key aspects of their module, including the answers written in their own words. So students can now go onto this document and just start typing. And here, whoops, here is the question. Here is the answer. All right, so you can have the students do this, and this actually gives you as the instructor a really good idea of how deep the understanding students have of whatever topic they've just finished. And it also provides you with some ideas for questions if you want to give them the opportunity to contribute some questions to an upcoming assessment. We also have a discussion as an opportunity for a formative assessment. This is another option from one of those resources from earlier this week. And I liked this one as well, because it's not your normal discussion. So the instructions are that students should read or view the Module 1 content, and then reply to this message with the following. Summarize what you've read in 1 word. This is actually what the research recommends for student engagement and to gauge student learning. So summarize what you've read in 1 word, and then explain in 2 to 3 short paragraphs why you chose the words you did and how that word encompasses your understanding of the content. So this is yet another way for you to gauge what students are understanding and maybe in fact what they're misunderstanding, because the word that they choose to summarize the content may give you a clue of something that they're not getting. And their 2 to 3 paragraphs is going to give you a better explanation of a word choice that maybe they do understand, but they've just chosen a word that maybe is inappropriate to describe that understanding. So this is another cool formative assessment option that I don't think a lot of us use, and I thought this was neat. And then the last thing is to take students to an external application to do a knowledge check. And again, the only reason to do this is for variety. There is no benefit to using something like Socrative, which this is going to take us to, over anything that is in Canvas. It's simply an opportunity for you to see something else that is an option if you want to give your students some variety and spice in life. That's it. Okay, so today we've talked about a lot of things, haven't we? We have talked about the different types of progress checks, and we've talked about new types of quizzes in Canvas. And we have also talked about how to embed formative quizzes of various types into the LMS. So I want to thank you for your attention tonight. If you have any questions and you want to pop those in the chat real quick, that would be fine. This recording will be housed on our EdTech website. It should be up there shortly, a couple of days from now. And I am going to put in the chat our survey, and I would ask if you would take a moment to give us some feedback on your experience. We always take into account how you all are experiencing our trainings that we give, and we hope that anything that you can contribute as far as what you need more help with or what you thought was particularly effective, that always helps us to plan for the future. So again, thank you so much for being here tonight, and I hope you've enjoyed it.